and welcome. Tonight, House of Representatives asked the EFCC and ICPC to provide information on recovered COVID-19 intervention funds from ministries, departments and agencies. Senate asked the federal government to deny allocations to Benue local government councils, rejecting the outcome of the local government elections in the state. And experts in Nigeria's petroleum sector describe the latest hike in petrol price as a beginning of full deregulation of the sector.
On business news, Nigeria's pension assets hit 21 trillion naira after growing by 345 billion naira in August amid more modest increase in contributions.
On sports news tonight, 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal will retire after Spain's Davis Cup finals in Malaga in November.
And from the nation's capital, the Board of Trustees of the PDP asks the National Working Committee of the party to urgently convene a National Executive Committee meeting to address the crisis within the party.
And in international news from London, Florida residents are being warned not to visit areas hit by Hurricane Milton after it brought tornadoes, floods and storm surges to the state.
We begin with judiciary matters. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has affirmed the judgment of the Federal High Court, which set aside the 800 billion naira budget passed by 5 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, which was led by Edison Ehie. The appellate court on Thursday dismissed the appeal filed by the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, on the grounds that it lacked merit. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
The courtroom at the Court of Appeal is quite scanty and calm, but it's a reflection of the weight of the case before justices of the appellate court. The Rivers State government filed an appeal challenging the decision of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, who nullified the passage of the Rivers State 800 billion naira 2024 budget by 4 members of the House of Assembly. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice James Oyewole held that the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, withdrew from the case at the lower court and cannot commence an appeal in a matter he did not challenge at the trial court. The court added that the Rivers State governor was using his immunity to carry out executive lawlessness by presenting the budget to only 4 members and signing same into law under 24 hours, which amounts to a gross violation of Section 91 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In the unanimous judgment, the appellate court voided and set aside the passage of the 2024 budget by 4 out of 32 members on the ground of illegality. The court also ordered the governor to pay a cost of 500,000 naira each to the respondents.
Court of Appeal this afternoon affirmed the decision of Justice Omotosho, and in affirming same, clearly stated that Right Honorable Martin Chike Amewule is the authentic Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
The Speaker of the 27 House of Assembly members speaks on the judgment.
Everybody heard, and very clearly too, when the justices made it clear that I remain the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. They emphasized the fact that I was elected on the 5th day of June 2023, and that there has not been any reason to say that I lost my seats because I was never impeached and I was never removed. That emphasis was made by the Court of Appeal today.
Many now wait to see if the Rivers State governor will appeal the judgment at a higher court. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Rivers State government has insisted that the appeal court judgment does not reinstate the Martin Amewule-led faction of the State House of Assembly. In a statement signed by the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Israel Dagogo Broma, the government says that Mr. Amewule and 26 others had defected on December the 11th, 2023, and that their seats became automatically vacant from the day they announced their defection from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. The Attorney General insists the issue of defection of Mr. Amewele and 26 others was never before the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal Abuja, and therefore no court has legitimized their membership of the House of Assembly on the basis of the defection. The Senate is asking the federal government to deny allocations to Benue local government councils, rejecting the outcome of the recently conducted local government elections in the state. This resolution was adopted after the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Abamoro, raised concerns over what he describes as a sham and an abuse of the Constitution. The upper chamber also condemned the Benue State Independent Electoral Commission over the conduct of the October 5th, 2024 exercise.
The third plenary of the week in the Senate focuses on the Benue State local government elections.
While the electors excitedly trooped out in their numbers to exercise their franchise to elect leaders who will represent their will at the local councils, they waited for hours in vain, as neither electoral materials nor electoral officers showed up in many parts of the polling stations.
Across party lines, the co-sponsors unanimously concur that no election held.
This is a national malaise that needs our attention, sir. To show that they themselves did not believe in what they did, the so-called winners of the election were sworn in at 4 a.m. on Sunday.
In an emotive debate, other lawmakers elevate the need to crucially address the issue of lack of transparency in council elections across states.
It's a national calamity. It's a democratic calamity. It's incumbent on us to make sure we correct what is going on in the name of local government election. If you want state independent electoral commissions to be removed from the Constitution so that only INEC conducts elections for all the local governments and the states and the federation, then you have to have the governors on board. Must have a national dialogue. The president must be there. The governors must be there. Even the past governors must be there.
By the same token, the Senate president expressed regret over the attitude of some state governors.
By the governor of Edo State, I think his name is Obaseki. He has run the state with either 1/3 of members of the House of Assembly, to the shame of democracy, for almost 4 years. People that were elected were not sworn into office. Well, and then even in total, in flagrant disregard to court orders.
Meanwhile, the Senate has confirmed Professor Abdullahi Saleh for appointment as chairman of the National Hajj Commission, as well as Mr. Badamosi Lawal for appointment as national coordinator of the National Social Investment Program Agency. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Some stakeholders in the Nigeria's petroleum sector have described the latest hike in petrol price as a beginning of full deregulation of the sector, while some other economic experts believe that it's not yet uhuru, as further increase in pump price should not be ruled out. But for many Nigerians, the ripple effect of persistent rising petrol price continues to put more strain on their finances and the overall cost of living. Our correspondent, Yomi Otaibe, reports.
No official statement from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, on the latest hike in petrol prices for different locations in Nigeria. But the queues and adjusted pump prices say it all. Channels Television's monitoring of fuel pump prices at NNPCL stations in Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Imo, Port Harcourt, Kaduna and Yobe states shows prices ranging from 998 naira up to 1,098 naira, while other independent marketers and retail outlets sell a litre of petrol between 996 naira and 1,400 naira where available, as some stations in these locations are under lock and key.
Are they not feeling the pulse of the poor masses? From the time they started increasing this fuel, some people had packed their cars, Some businesses are closed. We don't even have money to buy fuel. We don't have money to buy food.
They've not helped the poor masses. Even the rich are also crying this time around.
It's a very bad experience. So we appeal to the government to please have mercy on we Nigerians and we workers in Nigeria so that we can live a comfortable life.
Transportation is what I do right now. Because of the fuel price, I go home with almost nothing. Because I am working and the whole money I am making goes to fuel.
We cannot afford common basic necessity for we Nigeria, and we voted for them.
For the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, one of the factors behind fuel scarcity and long queues being experienced in some parts of the country is the alleged delay in the supply of PMS from NNPCL to its members and the discrepancies in prices.
1,010 in Lagos, 1,050 naira in Calabar, 1,045 naira in Port Harcourt, 1,040 naira in Wari. This NNPC, they are getting this product through Dangote at the rate of 898 naira per liter. And the same NNPC tell us to come and buy this product at the rate of 110 naira in Lagos. NNPCs should either load us the way we have paid before, or they should allow us to go to Dangote, source the product direct through him.
On its part, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, is asking authorities at Dangote refinery to communicate better on its fuel price.
At this point in Dangote's campaign into Nigeria, retail outlet owners like us should be able to know this is how much Dangote is willing to sell to us. And we have kept that shrouded in secrecy up until now. NNPC came out and gave us a price template. That also did not tell us what is the exact price input from Dangote.
Looking through the lens of an economist, Nigerians still have many rivers to cross before they arrive at the promised land.
Subsidies are not gone. Subsidies are reduced. 2, the price is more reflective of market reality, determined by 1, the market price of oil, and also the price of petrol in the neighboring countries. 4thly, the point is that the price of petrol is closer to the price of diesel now, which is an equally deregulated product. An increase in price is always a negative thing, but at times there's a perverse way of looking at it that there's silver lining behind every cloud.
No doubt, it's really an economically trying time for most Nigerians. Many wonder when or if this burden will become lighter as they look towards the federal government, NNPCL and other critical stakeholders in the petroleum sector to frontally address the issues. Yomi Otaigbe, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, the Vice President Kashim Shettima describes Nigeria's 25.6% of out-of-school children as a threat to the country's future. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. The House of Representatives asks the EFCC and ICPC to provide information of funds recovered from ministries, departments and agencies on the COVID-19 intervention funds. The Senate has asked the federal government to deny allocations to Benue local government councils, rejecting the outcome of the recently concluded local government elections in the state. Experts in Nigeria's petroleum sector describe the latest hike in petrol prices as a beginning of full deregulation of the sector. And storm makes landfall in Florida. The House House of Representatives is asking the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission to provide comprehensive information on funds recovered from ministries, departments and agencies on the COVID-19 intervention funds. The House made the resolution after considering the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on a motion on the alleged mismanagement of the funds. The House is also asking the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation to provide evidence of remittances and mop-up of unspent funds on COVID-19 intervention funds to the MDAs. Meanwhile, a bill for an act to amend the Federal Road Safety Commission Act 2007 to make provision for the establishment of Road Safety Special Armed Squad has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The Coalition of United Political Parties, CUP, has described the recent increase in the price of petrol as outrageous and a deliberate attempt to further impoverish Nigerians. Addressing a State of the Nation conference in Abuja, the spokesperson of the coalition, Mr. Mark Adebayo, laments that in less than 18 months of President Tinubu's administration, fuel prices have been increased by over 2,000%, which has exponentially increased poverty, hunger, and the general sufferings of Nigerians. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had on Wednesday increased the price of petrol from 897 naira to 1,030 naira.
We have a mandate to interrogate the socio-economic and political status of our dear country periodically and speak truth to power in defense of justice, democracy, and in the overall interests of the country. To start with, less than 24 hours ago, as part of the harrowing economic conditions of the country, orchestrated by the atrocious economic policies of the Tinubu administration, the pump price of fuel was again increased to over 1,000 naira per litre. In less than 1.5 years of the Tinubu administration, fuel prices have been increased by over 2,000%, which has exponentially increased poverty, hunger, and general suffering of Nigerians, as persistently unleashed on us by a totally insensitive and wicked administration. This is not the Nigeria we envisaged at the return of democracy in 1999.
More visits are continuing at the Dangote refinery here in Lagos as the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dixon Michel, is the most recent to tour the refinery. The Prime Minister was received and led on the tour of the refinery by the Chairman and CEO of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, and other top-ranking staff.
Covering a land area of approximately 2,635 hectares, which is about 6 times the size of Victoria Island. This is the Dangote refinery. The 650,000 barrels per day integrated refinery infrastructure is the largest anywhere in the world, and that's why the Prime Minister of Grenada, Mr. Michel Dicon, is the latest high-profile diplomat to absorb this masterpiece. Led by the chairman and CEO of the largest industrial conglomerate in West Africa, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, alongside key management staff, he begins the tour at the landfall, then to the jetty and the fertilizer plant, before making another stop at the central laboratory and the main control room, MCR. The team also makes a stop at the Petroleum refinery and storage tanks. Done with the tour, the Prime Minister and his host speak to the media.
This is an amazing achievement, an amazing accomplishment, a tribute to what a great vision Mr. Dangote has, not just for his company, but for Nigeria and but for Africa as a whole. So it's been a wonderful experience. The sheer scale, breadth, depth, sophistication, automation, as well as to see many very bright young Nigerians, particularly at the lab.
The Prime Minister is not only Prime Minister of Grenada, he's also the chairman of the Caribbean states. We're looking at also cement, We're looking at petroleum, this in to buy maybe some crude from them, also to sell some of our petroleum products, because, we export to everywhere.
The management of the Dangote Petroleum refinery is optimistic that this historic meeting will possibly breathe a new life into the Caribbean-African relations, given the reality of Africa as the fastest growing continent in the world.
To education now, Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for a concerted approach to address gender-based barriers to quality education. He made the call at the two-day International Conference on Girl-Child Education in Nigeria, organized by the Nigerian Governors Forum in collaboration with the World Bank and other partners, held at the banquet hall at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The Vice President emphasized the need for increased budget allocation by federal and state governments. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
This is part of the commemoration of the International Day for the Girl Child, and stakeholders in the education sector gathered to discuss the education of the girl child. According to UNICEF, 25.6% of children in Nigeria are out of school, mostly girls, a statistics viewed by stakeholders as a threat to the country's development.
As the girls progress into junior secondary, completion is at 67% compared to the boys, which is at 69%. And this widens further at senior secondary, where completion drops to 51% for the girls.
Results from the 2021 mixed survey show that only just a quarter of children aged 7 to 14 years old could demonstrate foundational reading skills.
Federal and state governments share the view that more investment is required in the education sector.
The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken that as a core responsibility for this country to ensure that there's no Nigerian child who fails to go to school for want of resources, for want of his location, and any other reason.
Initiatives to re-enroll children in schools, improve learning outcomes, and secure adequate funding are essential to ensuring that every child receives a quality education. This conference serves as a clarion call to take decisive action.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is represented by his Chief of Staff, who makes a case for quality education to secure the nation's future.
Each child abandoned to the streets is a liability that the nation will one day pay for. We must therefore remember that the child who remains out of school today will be a threat to their peer in the classroom tomorrow. And we cannot afford to turn away from this reality, and the need for creative and innovative solutions is now more pressing than ever.
The federal government is aiming to achieve a 0.6 score on the World Bank's Human Capital Index, and experts here believe this is achievable through the provision of quality education. From the Presidential Villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
We have more for you on the news at 10 as we head over to Abuja studios now, where Terry Kumi is standing by. Hello, Terry.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. The Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party is asking the National Working Committee of the party to urgently convene a National Executive Committee meeting to address the crisis within the party. Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Senator Adolfo Swabara, made the recommendation at a meeting of the BOT in Abuja. Mr. Swabara also urges all that are invited by the party's disciplinary committee to freely present themselves to the committee, stressing the supremacy of the party over any member. The PDP has been battling internal crisis, which has split its members along personal interest lines regarding the tenure of the acting national chairman and issues of discipline of erring members.
On August 20th, 2024, the Board of Trustees held a significant meeting with His Excellency Governor Similaye Fubara of Rivers State. The discussions were comprehensive, touching on the situation in Rivers and the PDP's future direction. Similarly, on September 18, 2024, we had the privilege of meeting with His Excellency Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, who is the chairman of the Governors Forum, PDP, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, His Excellency Nyesom Wike. I believe it is imperative that we convene a meeting of the National Executive Committee, NEC, as scheduled for the 24th of October this year. This will allow us to address pressing matters and strategize on the way forward for the PDP, especially as we gear up for future elections and prepare to strengthen our internal structures.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's pension assets hit 21 trillion naira after growing by 345 billion in August, amid more modest increase in contributions. That's some business news. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. As the world marks Mental Health Day, the need to check the prevalence in Nigeria, which has been put at over 20% of total population, has again been brought to the fore. Former governorship aspirant in Rivers State and chairman Behavioral Health Institute, Tonya Cole, decries the lack of attention paid to this menace. Mr. Cole stated this at a media parley in the wake of his Kilimanjaro Challenge, part of an initiative to drum up support for mental and behavioral health. Our correspondent Chris Illems reports.
World Mental Health Day takes center stage, and the statistics, according to WHO, are mind-boggling. 20% of Nigerians suffer from this condition, yet less than 10% receive care. Factors such as economic distress, social instability and trauma are common triggers, all of which have become commonplace in Nigeria today, just as the people contend with the rising cost of living. To draw attention to this menace, one man decides to take on the Kilimanjaro Challenge to symbolize that every mountain can be conquered.
While facing the challenge of climbing a mountain, which for me had personal ramifications, I also realized that one of the biggest challenges that the young people in Nigeria have are mountains that are very difficult for them to overcome.
Tonya Cole, a one-time governorship aspirant in Rivers State, says he is alarmed by the number of young people suffering from behavioral and mental health conditions. He wants more attention paid to this crisis.
We want to let them know that it is okay to seek help. It is okay to talk to somebody. That mental health is not a stigma that affects the poor, affects the wicked, affects the evil. No.
According to health experts, when the condition is not treated, the effect could be damaging and could impact sufferers socially, economically, educationally, occupationally, and otherwise.
Something as very sensitive as erectile dysfunction and impotence. And people think it's something that old men go through. We're now seeing it in young people.
The theme for this year's celebration is meant to draw attention to prioritizing mental health in the workplace as it takes its toll on productivity.
For every 1 year, we are losing 12 billion work days. And ILO said that we are losing over $1 trillion because of productivity is low, absenteeism, presenteeism. These people will never ask for absenteeism. They will not be absent, rather. They'll be present, but they're not doing anything.
So when symptoms such as prolonged sadness, withdrawal, sudden change in behavior manifest, care must be taken not to misjudge the situation. One psychiatrist to 1 million Nigerians is dire in the face of the surge in mental health cases. This also calls for attention. Little wonder creating a platform to bridge the gap in mental health care, such as the Behavioral Health Institute, an initiative set to offer free therapy sessions to 1,000 youth, is crucial and a welcome development. Crystal Ems, Channels Television News.
That's it from the nation's capital. For more in the news at 10, it's back to Anne in Lagos.
Thank you, Terry. The wife of the Olu of Warri, Her Royal Highness the Queen Consort, Olori Atuwase III, says that it is time for Africa to reclaim its story and change the wrong narrative. She gave this charge at the first Elevate Africa Summit, an initiative of the Warri Kingdom held in Abuja. The event was also attended by the wife of the Vice President, Hajiya Nana Shatima, who represented the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. The Olu of Warri Kingdom, His Royal Highness Ogiame Atuwase III, and other top government officials were in attendance.
Elevate Africa, a non-governmental organization, is organizing its first summit in Abuja with the theme, The Africa We See, Unleashing Potential to Redefine the Future. The initiative, a brainchild of the Olu of Warri and his wife, aims to project the rich heritage and culture of Africa and redefine the continent's narrative.
Our focus is not only on great ideas, but on greater actions. So this isn't just another dialogue that's happening here today. Our convening is a breeding ground for solutions. For too long, the world has relied on foreign agencies to speak for us. We need our own institutions, producing impactful work through research and books and documentary, advocating for our change where it matters.
Dignitaries from within and outside Nigeria were in attendance, and they applaud the initiative.
Africa is helping to amplify the voices of those who are often unheard, misunderstood, or have been silenced. Africa, to me, it is not defined by its struggles, but by its incredible potential, its spirit of commitment, and its boundless hope for the future.
The wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Nana Shatima, who represented the First Lady of Nigeria, speaks on the interventions of the government and the empowerment of women and youths in Nigeria.
Nigerian youths remain one of our greatest assets. They are the future, and therefore urge the youth to remain committed to hard work, diligence, and imbibe compassion for one another, to work together in unity and be patient. This administration is committed to creating an enabling environment where their creativity, talents, and resilience can be harnessed. They are the leaders of tomorrow.
The organizers of this event, Elevate Africa, hope to leverage on partnerships as well as value-driven leadership to achieve the vision of the organization.
Grab your tea, coffee, light refreshments, and you can come back. The Kaduna State government has commended international dairy company Arla Foods for its sustainable practices and its positive impact on local livelihoods in the state. The Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe, gave this commendation at the company's open day in Damao community of Kabao local government area of the state. The day aims to promote sustainable farming and connecting consumers with farmers in dairy production.
Sitting on the 400 hectares of land situated in Damao community of Kubo local government area of Kaduna State, Ala Farm, a dairy production company, was established in 2023 with a capacity to house 400 milking cows and 1,000 animals. The farm is also home to hundreds of Danish Holstein cows, known to have a higher yield of producing 5 million kilograms of milk annually. The company is holding this open day as part of efforts to sustain dairy farming business in Nigeria. The idea is to create a networking platform for farmers to showcase their products and learn best farming practices.
One of the issues we identified on this journey has been a gap of skilled professionals in the dairy sector. It's very difficult to find skilled hands, and that's because maybe people are not as interested in this sector. So we want to encourage people. We want to show people that farming can be exciting.
The Kaduna State Governor is represented by the Deputy Governor. The ambassador of Sweden and Denmark were also in attendance, and they consider the effort of the company as a commitment to revolutionizing dairy production in Nigeria.
With this project, you have managed to construct one of the most modern dairy farms in Africa.
It's a reflection of Sweden's unwavering commitment to environmental responsibility. Their efforts to reduce emissions, utilize renewable energy, and promote animal welfare are commendable.
For the Kaduna State government, the company's presence in the state represents a landmark that reflects state's dedication to creating a favorable business environment.
It is worthy to note that this project is contributing significantly to strengthening our dairy sector, empowering local communities while contributing to our state's economy. Allah is committed to providing wholesome, nutritious dairy products and also protecting our environment. The farm's sustainable practices and positive impact on livelihoods are therefore truly commendable.
The day also provides opportunity for visitors to explore its farms and learn about dairy farming and animal welfare.
We continue in the world of business with Dominic Iwewu standing by.
Thank you, and welcome to Business News. Nigeria's contributory pension assets hit a new milestone of 21.14 trillion at the end of August, up from 20.79 trillion naira recorded in July. According to latest data from the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, the amount represents a 345.65 billion naira increase from its previous level, following a modest rise in the number of contributors to the pension assets. The PENCOM report also shows that the number of registered contributors, otherwise called retirement savings account holders, also grew to more than 10.45 million at the end of August, up from over 10.41 million holders recorded in July. Ahead of the release of Nigeria's inflation report for September by the National Bureau of Statistics next week, economic think tank and advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company has projected a higher increase in the rate. In its latest forecast, FDC says it expects the monthly headline number to climb marginally by 0.22% points to 32.37%, largely due to the higher petrol price and exchange rate depreciation. This, according to the FDC, will bring an end to the 2 consecutive months of disinflation that commenced in July. However, FDC says it expects annual and monthly food inflation to contribute its declining trend due to harvest season. Nigeria's first listed power generation company, Geregu Power PLC, has released its 9-month results for this year, showing an impressive performance. According to the financial statement sent to the Nigerian Exchange Limited, the company's revenue grew by 101.95% to 112.58 billion naira year-on-year. Its profit before tax more than doubled by 107%, while profit after tax jumped by over 112%. In addition to strong earnings growth, Geregu Power's share price has surged by an impressive 188% year-to-date, with its share price currently at 1,000 naira. And from there, we head to the stock market, which maintained a downward trend for the 3rd consecutive day at the close of today's trading session. Inijo Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market reports for the 3rd trading consecutive session. We see negative close at the NGX. Minimal today. We see a 6 billion naira off the market cap and managing to still hold on to the 56 trillion naira. You see here, really minimal, 0.01% in the red is what we have on the all share, and struggling with the 97 1,000 level. Look at the top trades today. We have a lot of mixed sentiment for it. So we see that the banking sector is what's leading the trades today. But we can tell you that while Zenith Bank had 25 million in volume of trade, it gained. But this was profit-taking at the close of trade, 30 million in volume, and Fidelity Bank also 43 million are topping that. Now, look at the sectors, and obviously this shows, continuing with the sentiment of yesterday, banking is down 0.22%. Consumer goods has lost the positive sentiment from yesterday. Honeywell Flour and Nigerian Breweries led this, while oil and gas continues also in the negative trend. Mixed sentiment for Japan Gold, Eternal Oil, you know, those big guys in that counter. So for a third day, the bear continues its reign.
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Residents of the U.S. state of Florida are being warned not to visit areas hit by Hurricane Milton after it brought tornadoes, floods, and storm surges to the state. More than 3 million people and 3 million homes and businesses are currently without power. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says that more flooding is expected in the coming days, but ongoing rescue operations will stabilize throughout the day. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Florida residents are being warned not to visit areas hit by Hurricane Milton after it brought tornadoes, floods and storm surges to the state. At least 4 people have died in the storm so far, and more than 3 million homes and businesses are without power. Over 80,000 people in Florida stayed in shelters overnight as 100-mile-per-hour winds brought down power lines and destroyed buildings. Here, Tampa Stadium's roof shredded by the winds. Governor Ron DeSantis says more flooding is expected in the coming days, but that so far the state has fared better than expected.
The storm was significant, but thankfully this was not the worst-case scenario. The storm did weaken before landfall, and the storm surge, as initially reported, has not been as significant overall as what was observed for Hurricane Helene. Right now, it looks like Sarasota County had the most significant storm surge, likely somewhere between 8 to 10 feet. And remember, with Helene, we had 15 to 20 feet up in Taylor County.
The UN says 2 peacekeepers have been injured after an Israeli tank fired on a watchtower at a UN base in southern Lebanon. Israeli forces have repeatedly hit UN positions in the last 24 hours, including deliberately firing at security cameras, they said. Earlier, Lebanese authorities said Israeli airstrikes killed 5 health workers in the south of the country. At least 115 health workers have been killed since last month. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Red Crescent says at least 28 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school sheltering displaced families in the central Gaza Strip. More than 50 others were injured in the attack on Rufaida al-Aslamiyah school, which the medical organization said was close to its headquarters in the town of Deir al-Balah. A video from the scene showed people running to help the injured amid a cloud of smoke and dust, while several children were pictured being treated at the local Al-Aqsa hospital. The Israeli military said the precise strike targeted Hamas fighters operating inside a command and control center at the school. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that relations between New Delhi and ASEAN members are very important amid conflicts and tensions around the world. Modi was speaking during the 21st ASEAN-India Summit at the National Convention Center in Laos. Modi also highlighted the growing strategic collaboration between his nation and ASEAN, particularly in maritime security, and emphasized that bilateral trade has more than doubled in the past decade, surpassing $130 billion.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, wearing matching navy blue blazers, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Malaysian Prime Minister met for a sideline talks on the summit before they were both due to attend a gala dinner held by host country Laos. The funeral has taken place in Mumbai of Ratan Tata, the chairman of one of India's biggest conglomerates, Tata Group, who died on Wednesday at the age of 86. Business leaders, politicians and celebrities were among thousands of people who paid their last respects at the centre where his body lay in state before being cremated. Maharashtra State declaring a day of mourning, and his coffin was given a military salute as it was taken away for the funeral rites. Ratan Tata took over as group chairman in 1991 and is credited with transforming it into a global powerhouse. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Well, are the Super Eagles of Nigeria ready for Libya? Well, Chris Elems might just have an answer to that question for us as it takes us through the world of sports.
Well, thank you, Anne. With less than 24 hours to the Super Eagles 2025 AFCON qualifier against Libya, Coach Augustine Eguavoin says the team is well prepared for the challenge, and the goal is to pick maximum points against the Mediterranean Knights. Leaders Nigeria have 4 points from 2 matches. So far, 1 point ahead of Benin Republic and 2 ahead of Rwanda.
The same approach like every other game. Game 1, game 2 is gone, so put it behind us. And we're ready for game 3, and we take every game seriously. And we're at home, like we are aware, and nothing short of 3 points, so it's going to be very tough. But we're trying as much as possible to stay steadfast where we are. So 3 points at stake, and it's up for grab, and we are ready for it.
22 Grand Slam titles champion Rafael Nadal is putting an end to his professional tennis career, a decision effective after the Davis Cup final in November. Nadal's career has been hampered by injuries, and he missed the 2023 French Open and was beaten in the first round by German Alexander Zverev this year.
Spanish tennis legend Rafael Nadal draws the curtain on his more than 2-decade sojourn in the racket sport. Nadal won his first major title at his first French Open 2 days after turning 19 in 2005. Dubbed the King of Clay, Nadal won the French Open singles title a record 14 times, winning 112 of his 116 major matches at Roland Garros. While he dominated on clay, the 8 Grand Slam titles he collected on other surfaces, 4 US Opens, 2 Wimbledons, and 2 Australian Opens, would, on their own, tie for 8th overall in men's tennis history. Aside his individual feats, Nadal helped his country to Olympic singles and doubles gold and 4 Davis Cup titles, most recently in 2019. The 38-year-old amassed titles despite playing in an era which also boasted Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, tennis's dominant big three for more than a decade.
At the end, doesn't matter that much, if it's one's 21, the other's 20, or one's finished with 23 and the others with 21. I mean, we did, I think, very, very important things we achieved our dreams.
If it wasn't for a succession of problems with his ankles, knees, elbow, and wrists, perhaps the figure could have been even more impressive.
And that's it on sports. It's back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. The House of Representatives has asked the EFCC and ICPC to provide information and funds recovered from ministries, departments, and agencies on the COVID-19 intervention funds. The Senate has urged the federal government to deny allocations to Benue local government councils, rejecting the outcome of the recently concluded local government elections in the state. And experts in Nigeria's petroleum sector have described the latest hike in petrol price as a beginning of full deregulation of the sector. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Good night.